All right, our speaker today is somebody who is well known to us, and I always enjoy. I know you do too. He's got a particularly interesting topic today. If you notice the talk title, Kintsugi, if you're not familiar with that, you're going to find out about it. Here's Kevin Hauber.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's my sound level? Maybe a little less. I'm doing the voice from the burning bush thing at the moment, so little less. Okay, that sounds great. Okay, thank you. So I know the theme for this month is prosperity, but I did the prosperity talk the last time I was here, so I was reading ahead. So sorry. So I'm gonna do something else this time that's hopefully going to be kind of an interesting mashup for you and share a few things with you. So I invite you to hang in there with me, and we'll give this a roll. First off, Rumi, because what would a Kevin service be without invoking a Sufi master? So here we go. From Rumi, I said, "What about my eyes?" He said, "Keep them on the road." I said, "What about my passion?" He said, "Keep it burning." I said, "What about my heart?" And he said, "Tell me what you hold inside." And I said, "What about my pain and sorrow?" And he said, "Stay with it. The wound is the place where the light enters you." The wound is the place where the light enters you. And to me, that's interesting, because if you know anything about the times of Rumi, of course, you know, he lived in Persia in the 13th century. And Persia in the 13th century was even more Islamic fundamentalist than, you know, that area of the world now. And being a Sufi and a mystic and an ecstatic was not necessarily popular with the powers that be at the time. And so, you know, when the more repressive regimes would come to power, the Sufis had to occasionally leave town. You know, so you'll hear about stories about Rumi or Hafez or others having to move around some to, you know, to be in a place where they could practice their ecstatic version of mysticism in the way that they chose. And so we don't necessarily think about that in terms of where we are in life at this point, because we have a country that has different freedoms associated with it. But during those times, your belief system meant a lot as to where you got to be or not. So the wound is the place where the light enters you. Okay, so now a story that may be familiar for you, but relevant nonetheless. A water bearer in India had two large pots, one hung on each end of a pole, which he carried across his neck. One of the pots had a crack in it, and while the other pot was perfect and always delivered a full portion of water at the end of the long walk from the stream to the master's house, the cracked pot arrived only half full. For a full 2 years, this went on daily, with the bearer delivering only 1.5 pots full of water to his master's house. And of course, the perfect pot was proud of its accomplishments, perfect to the end for which it was made. But the poor cracked pot was ashamed of its own imperfection and miserable that it was able to only accomplish half of what it had been made to do. And after 2 years of what it perceived as a bitter failure, it spoke to the water bearer one day by the stream. "I am ashamed of myself, and I want to apologize to you." "Why?" asked the water bearer. "What are you ashamed of?" "I've been able for these past 2 years to deliver only half my load, because this crack in my side causes water to leak out all the way back to your master's house. Because of my flaws, you have to do all of this work, and you don't get full value from your efforts, the pot said. The water bearer felt sorry for the old cracked pot, and in his compassion he said, "As we return to the master's house, I want you to notice the beautiful flowers along the path." Indeed, as they went up the hill, the old cracked pot took notice of the sun warming the beautiful wildflowers on the side of the path, and it cheered it some. But at the end of the trail, it still felt bad because it had leaked out half its load, and so again apologized to the bearer for its failure. And the bearer said to the pot, "Did you notice that there were flowers only on your side of the path and not on the other pot's side? That's because I have always known about your flaw and took advantage of it. I planted flower seeds on your side of the path, and every day while we walk back from the stream, you've watered them. For 2 years, I've been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate my master's table. Without you being just the way you are, he would not have had this beauty to grace his house." The moral: each of us has our own unique flaws. We're all cracked pots. But it's the cracks and the flaws we each have that make our lives together so very interesting and rewarding. You've just got to take each person for what they are and look for the good in them. And there's a lot of good out there, and there's a lot of good in us. Great story, huh? Yeah. So what do we do with those cracks? How do we utilize them like the water bearer did to create beauty? That's the subject for the talk today. And I want to make that a reframe of how we view ourselves and our own flaws and our cracks. So the Grand Canyon is a huge scar on the earth that was caused by glacial action during the last ice age. But we don't look at the earth with disdain or pity because the Grand Canyon is there. On the contrary, we hold the Grand Canyon to be a thing of wonder and of beauty. But it really is a scar on the face of the earth, isn't it? But look what it shows us about what's deep inside. So we get socialized to be the perfect pot, don't we? We get socialized to hide our imperfections for fear of being shamed about them. But that's where the subject of the talk today comes in, Kintsugi. Kent who, you ask? Literally, Kintsugi, Kintsugi, means joining with gold. Joining with gold. This is a centuries-old art that is more than just an aesthetic. For the Japanese, it's part of a broader philosophy of embracing human flaws. I want to say that again, just to bring that home. It is part of a broader philosophy of embracing the beauty of human flaws. You don't hear that very often, do you? Yeah. Most people don't purposefully shatter their cherished pieces of pottery, but this isn't always the case in Japanese culture. Adorning broken ceramics with a lacquered mix of powdered gold is part of more than a 500-year-old Japanese tradition that highlights imperfections rather than hiding them. Not only does this teach calm when a cherished piece of pottery breaks, but it's a reminder of the beauty of human fragility as well. In a world that so often prizes youth and perfection and excess, embracing the old and battered may seem strange. But the 15th century practice of Kintsugi is a reminder to stay optimistic when things fall apart and to celebrate the flaws and the missteps of life. How often do you give yourself permission for that? I'm going to celebrate my flaws and my missteps. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So the Kintsugi technique is an extension of the Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi. Now that is not the hot green stuff that you get with your sushi. It says wabi-sabi. Okay. Wabi-sabi sees the beauty in the incomplete and the value in simplicity. Broken pieces gilded restoration usually takes up to 3 months, as the fragments are carefully glued together with the sap of an indigenous Japanese tree, and then left to dry for a few weeks, and then adorned with gold running along the cracks. And I invite you, when the service is done, if you get on your phone or your computer or whatever, to look up Kintsugi and see some of the work. It's absolutely beautiful. Maybe you want to paint some of the cracks on yourself, get out a gold pen and do. I've considered doing that as an exercise. So. In an age of mass production and quick disposal, learning to accept and celebrate scars and flaws is a powerful lesson in humanity and sustainability. Here's another perspective from yet another person. So we're encouraged by society at large to be fearless, to be strong and driven, to keep our brokenness locked away from view. Well, the work of Brene Brown and others is starting to allow us to acknowledge and even to welcome our vulnerability. We have a long way to go in the rapid course of our busy days in terms of actually standing in our vulnerability and our brokenness. Appreciating it becomes the next step. Candice Kumai, chef and author of Kintsugi Wellness, the Japanese art of nourishing mind, body, and spirit, explores how this idea can be brought into how we treat ourselves. She offers the image of using Kintsugi as a metaphor for your life to see the broken, the difficult, or the painful parts of you as radiating light and gold and beauty. The broken parts are where the light enters you. Thank you, Rumi. Kumai became aware of this practice from her ancestral home, where her own broken places became too much for her to ignore. She offers these ideas as guideposts for exploring and appreciating where you are in your journey and what you've gone through to get here. And so these are a few points that she offers us. Chart your progress. Like a map of your heart, writes Kumai, Kintsugi shows us the lessons and reveals the truth. When we can begin to see the lessons and how we've learned and grown from our challenges, then we can begin to find healing. She reminds us, your Kintsugi cracks become gold by doing the work. Next point, be kind to yourself. We can only truly offer kindness to others when we have first offered it to ourselves. Let your kindness cup flow over. As a practice of self-love and forgiveness, Kintsugi reminds us that the most beautiful, meaningful parts of yourself are the ones that have been broken, mended, and healed. The practice doesn't end. In this journey of life, there is really no destination. We're always learning, and there is always more for us to understand. Kumai writes, to practice Japanese wellness, you must approach it with an open and honest heart. This is simply about being willing to grow and learn. And then the final point, your beauty is in your brokenness. Ever had anybody tell you that? Pretty rare, huh? Your beauty is in your brokenness. We are forever changed by our pain and our struggles. True. Huh? Kintsugi is about seeing these experiences for what they have to teach us and the beauty they bring to our lives. If you could see my heart, writes Kumai, you would see that there are golden cracks all over it. Some run deep, some are still being sealed, and many more are still to come. So the next time that you feel like you won't survive a particular experience or that you'll be broken forever, remember that the core of your strength, remember that your resilience as a being and the struggles of your life are an important part of your journey. Kintsugi can help you find solace in an awareness that your broken places make you stronger and better than ever before. Nice. And there's a poem by Leonard Cohen from Anthem that I wanted. Probably you know this one, huh? Yeah. It was already, yeah. Ring the bells that can still ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Nice. So if we look at the repaired pottery with its golden scars, we may interpret imperfections as a source of strength and beauty. And this reminds us of our uniqueness, our inner strengths, and our resilience. We're able to discover meaning in the most challenging events in life. And a quote from Haruki Murakami, "I can bear any pain as long as it has meaning." So thank you, bless you, namaste. Remember that the crack is the place where the light enters you.